For some reason, depending on who is talking about this story, certain parts are excluded or glossed over or exaggerated or misconstrued.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Baited Podcast. Emphasis on the word special, the other two aren't here. It's just me, Colossal is Crazy, the best member of the Baited Podcast. In order to give you context to the episode we will all record together in about 12 hours' time, give or take, I have been tasked with reacting to Philip DeFranco's response alone, even though it's not really a reaction since I've seen it multiple times. Chad has already done it live, Keem has done it on Drama Alert, and I'll leave both links in the description for you, even though there's no point because this is going to be far superior to theirs. Now, I appreciate this isn't a podcast. You can consider this a bonus episode. There's no point whining about it. There's really no fucking point. I'm the best member anyway. It's like confirmed. And I'm the only one that's not morbidly obese. So that's got to count for something. Last episode, we covered a little bit of the Betterhelp controversy, why we think it's a scam, and why Philip DeFranco deserves a great deal of criticism for his connection to it. It transpired that his company, Rogue Rocket, was in fact partnered with Betterhelp, and at some point in the episode, I proposed the theory that Philip was acting as a kind of marketing manager for it, advising Betterhelp on who to contact and who to offer a sponsorship to. Now, he has now somewhat confirmed the theory, since he revealed that part of his business model operates as a small third-party ad agency, though it's all still a little bit unclear as to exactly how they do things. In some cases, they have advised Betterhelp on who to contact, in others, they've contacted the YouTuber directly, and in Boogie's case, it's all very fucking weird, as you'll soon discover. Anyways, I was fairly close to the mark, I would say, when he revealed this in a response video that the vast majority of people seem to be praising him for. But I disagree. I think it's a crap response that somehow managed to make him look even worse. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a very clever response. As for anyone who hadn't really looked into the story, it all seemed as if he'd explained everything, and the criticism he'd received had been either invalidated or was in fact invalid all along.
And so with all that said, let's talk about BetterHelp. They're an online counseling service. I've used it. I've loved it. I've made no secret whatsoever that they've sponsored my videos in the past.
He says this like it's a point of defense. Problem is, nobody has accused him of making it a secret. Nobody has claimed he's hiding the fact he was sponsored by them, only that he failed to mention he was partnered with them before he sponsored with them. A totally separate point. He then plays 3 different clips to try and strengthen a defense that he simply doesn't need to make.
And today in Awesome, brought to you by BetterHelp.com/DeFranco. Brought to you by BetterHelp.com/DeFranco. Brought to you by BetterHelp.com/DeFranco.
He does all this to make it seem like he's disproving an allegation against him. If you don't really know the story and you haven't heard all the criticisms yet, then you will automatically assume that he has just countered one of them. But in reality, he's done nothing of the sort since he was never accused of it. It's a clever way to make it seem like he's making a good defense for himself by defending and disproving a point nobody has even attacked him on.
Certain versions of this story involve me sneaking in some sort of sponsorship, which is just not accurate. And how would that even make sense since my name's literally in the URL?
Again, nobody is claiming that it was this DeFranco link that was used in other YouTuber sponsorships for BetterHelp. It is in fact this Rogue Rocket link that's in question. Rogue Rocket is Philip's company and by his own admission is partnered with BetterHelp on a company level. Philip kind of victoriously states it doesn't make sense because of course it doesn't make sense. Nobody fucking said it. I couldn't find one video, live stream or podcast where it was mentioned. Maybe Philip got a tweet with it, but even if that's the case, it's still very deceptive of him to cherry-pick this one point and use it in his video. He makes it out to seem this is a kind of common accusation, and it's simply not. He's only done it to deflect the real criticism and make it seem like he's disproving anyone who's had something negative to say.
Also, an important part that has been excluded or glossed over by some telling this story, I immediately suspended my sponsorships with them moving forward.
You might have cancelled your personal sponsorship with them for now, but not your partnership. This means that anyone who's still sponsored by BetterHelp and is affiliated with your company, Rogue Rocket, will still be generating money for you. So it's a kind of half-truth, half-lie, depending on which way you look at it. I see a few people saying he's still sponsoring BetterHelp just by defending them. He kind of is, inadvertently, but I don't think it's a particularly strong point of criticism, since how the fuck else is he going to talk about BetterHelp without mentioning them?
Also on top of this, a thing that has been excluded or glossed over by several of the people telling this story, I have involved a third-party journalist, and the goal is either for them to go with me to the BetterHelp offices or independently. Obviously, a lot of that depends on availability, scheduling, but the main point is getting the access and checking the whole situation out.
As I mentioned last episode, it's all a bit pointless. It's an internet-based company with internetical customers that employs third-party counselors from anywhere and everywhere but the fucking office. It's a PR move, plain and simple.
As I mentioned last week, and this has been used as a gotcha moment, here, I'll play it. BetterHelp has been a sponsor of our videos. We've even partnered with them at a company level to help them with other sponsorships with other YouTubers. And so that clip has been misconstrued as, oh, that's the smoking gun. That is the evidence that Philip DeFranco, he is invested. He is part of it. He is the mastermind.
Well, I wouldn't use the term smoking gun. But it could be, in the sense you didn't reveal you were partnered with BetterHelp before you sponsored with them. You've now clarified that your first sponsorship with them was made before you partnered with them. which is fine, but what about all the others you did after that? There's a lack of transparency here, which should be an obvious concern to anyone because you're promoting something that you've got an invested interest in, and it's one that goes beyond your standard sponsorship, I think. That doesn't have to mean you've literally invested in BetterHelp yourself, but not disclosing your partnership makes all your sponsorships, other than the first one now, a clear conflict of interest. Sit down and ask yourself if you benefit from BetterHelp's success even without a DeFranco sponsorship, and the answer will be yes, due to the fact that Rogue Rocket fucking exists. Now, I've seen several people equate this to what Pro Syndicate and T Martin were doing, and there are parallels there, but it's not as bad for obvious reasons, main one being he doesn't own the company like they did. That said, that doesn't change the fact that what you're doing is pretty fucking shady, and it's just amazing to me that you won't even acknowledge it.
So at the beginning of this, I had my original sponsorship with BetterHelp, and it was just a win on all fronts for us.
Yeah, I can believe it. On the surface, it looks like a very appealing, positive product for a person to promote because you can make lots of money and look good for doing it at the same time. Fucking win-win situation. A little bit too good to be true, you'd have thought, but if you look a bit deeper, some of these YouTubers, not all of them but a few, are very predatory in how they're getting their fans to sign up to the service. Not only are they using their own depression, but they're preying on their viewers' depression. Some very impressionable targets here. Let's not get into the whole idol worship thing, this weird connection some fans have with their favourite YouTuber. Of course, this is a case-by-case basis, of course it is, but you don't have to be particularly perceptive to see exactly what's going on here.
A popular narrative that has moved forward is that just everyone from the get-go, they were like, BetterHelp's a scam. You look online, just people complaining. You search BetterHelp reviews. First one that pops up has 287 reviews, 4.2 rating. eCounseling.com, 90 reviews, 3.9 rating. Trustpilot, 7.3.
It's kind of a shit point. Nobody said that every single person had something negative to say. It's exaggerative language, even though everyone is guilty of exaggerative language. I went to these links myself. There's plenty of negative stuff there too. And since when were written reviews reliable anyway? I'll tell you what I do trust a bit more. Visual, audible complaints. Customers on camera. I used some of these examples last episode, but they're not the ones you're responding to. And okay, fair enough, there are very positive video testimonials on BetterHelp's website. Many that, for some reason, seem to be following a script. I'd share some, but unfortunately they were all taken down last night. I wonder why. Maybe because we discovered one of them was made by an actor you can hire on Fiverr. We'll get into it.
On the Better Business Bureau website, it has a customer rating of 4.4 stars, and it actually has a Better Business Bureau rating of A+.
So some are saying you can pay to delete reviews with this website. Others are saying that's not true. I don't know.
I negotiated a deal with BetterHelp to make it so that I could also connect them with other YouTubers like an ad agency would. We connect some content creators, we set them up, we handle their daily numbers, we make sure they get paid. If they have any questions or need any help, we can be there for them. And then on the other end, BetterHelp, if they have any questions regarding, do you think this person would be good or something along those lines, we can advise. And for all of this, like an ad agency would, we take a percentage of the sponsorship.
I think Philip is very much overinflating what his company, Rogue Rocket, and what he himself are actually doing in terms of acting as a third-party ad agency. Over the last few years, I've spoken to a lot of YouTubers specifically about sponsorships and to several professionals that kind of specialize in finding them. It's something I've looked into a fair bit for really my own benefit, obviously hoping to obtain one for my channel in the future. We recently acquired a manager for the Beta Podcast who does exactly what Philip's company does in terms of helping us secure sponsorships for the show. He takes 10% of whatever the sponsorship is paying, and we're very happy to pay that because he's got the contacts and we don't. The fact is, if we had these contacts ourselves, we probably wouldn't need him. His job can be boiled down to him simply hitting up a brand to negotiate a deal. In fairness, there is a bit more beyond that, but not that much more, and certainly not as much as Philip is making it all out to be. In our manager's own words, what Philip is doing is exaggerating all this post work. In our case, this manager of ours is actually doing more work than Rogue Rocket, since he's negotiating the best deal for us. But with BetterHelp, it's more of a fixed amount for every YouTuber, $100 to $200. So Philip is directly misleading people by making it all sound a lot more than it is when it's kind of a very straightforward task. Most sponsorships pay out a flat fee, a one-off payment. If there's a link involved, you might get a small cut if your subscribers sign up using the link, but that's in addition to the payment. With BetterHelp, there isn't this main payment, only the link, but you obviously get a far, far larger cut. I mean, from the looks of things, a very generous one. And again, I've got to confuse it even more now because one person has come forward saying they were offered a flat fee, not the link, so it seems there are some rare exceptions here, but we can safely say for the vast majority they're only offering this very, very lucrative link. There's a major benefit to doing it this way because their overheads will be practically non-existent when offering a YouTuber an opportunity for sponsorship. Whereas most companies have a very set advertising budget for each quarter, BetterHelp have practically no limits, at least when it comes to this particular campaign, because the sponsorships they offer only eat into their profits, not what they've got in the bank. Again, excluding that one rare exception. discussion. But that's why you'll see hundreds and hundreds of YouTubers being sponsored by BetterHelp, and probably only a dozen for companies of a similar size. When we apply this to what Philip is offering in terms of connection, he's actually got very little to offer. Quite frankly, if you had at least 100,000 subscribers, you emailed them, and you're not Colossal is crazy making jokes about curb stomping babies, you probably would have gotten a guaranteed sponsorship with BetterHelp. There's little to no financial risk involved for them, even if you don't bring in a single customer. This is not some exclusive contact, and this is not a difficult sponsorship to obtain. Hence why there are so fucking many of them, and as I said, it's this connection that's really the only reason we've even got a manager for Baited. Therefore, it's fairly safe to conclude Philip's ad agency is taking a cut for doing pretty much nothing.
There have also been users like Boogie2988. He was unsure why my company name was in his referral URL. And the reason for that is instead of going to him and several other creators directly, which can take a lot of time, you don't want that agency to feel like you stepped on their toes because this whole business is all about relationship. And so we just went through an agency we already knew that he had been working with. And so just like we do with the creators we work with directly, we provide that agency all those numbers for him. And so part of our company here operates as a third-party ad agency, and they're providing a service for all of these people.
In the case of Boogie, he's not even doing what he says he's doing. And if we run through this list again,
We connect some content creators.
it was Boogie's manager that established this connection.
We set them up.
BetterHelp hooked up Boogie via Boogie's manager.
We handle their daily numbers.
Boogie wasn't even aware of exactly how many of his fans had signed up to the service, and as far as I know, he still hasn't got the exact figure. But for some reason, Philip is claiming he's sent these figures to him on a daily basis.
We make sure they get paid.
Pretty sure it was Boogie's manager that made sure Boogie got paid, because that's the only way Boogie's manager got paid.
If they have any questions or need any help, we can be there for them.
And how would Boogie know to contact you when he doesn't even know you're involved?
And then on the other end, BetterHelp, if they have any questions regarding, do you think this person would be good or something along those lines, we can advise. And for all of this, like an ad agency would, we take a percentage of the sponsorship.
And he lists it all off as if it is a service. The reality is what he's offering is incredibly limited. There's no point in his involvement, there's no need for his involvement, and no other way around it. This dude just straight up robbed a pig.
Instead of going to him and several other creators directly, which can take a lot of time, you don't want that agency to feel like you stepped on their toes because this whole business is all about relationship.
How the fuck would you be stepping on a creator's toes by emailing them a paid sponsorship offer? I mean, worst case scenario, you just ignore it. Weird language he's using, and ultimately I think this is an incredibly poor defense for what he's done to Boogie.
And as far as why we would want to operate as kind of a small third-party ad agency is that's been a small goal of our company. As I mentioned before, we had this sponsor that was just seen as a winner on all fronts. And at the same time, I knew of several creators that were having a hard time finding sponsors for their fantastic content. And so it just seemed like a no-brainer that we would take this win on all fronts, connect those people, we'd handle everything for them, and then like an agency does, we take a small percentage for the connection and the upkeep. And this part dives even deeper into our long-term business model. It's been a side goal of mine to have an in-house sales team, have essentially a small agency. And so part of our business model moving forward was that, we've done so much legwork to have direct connection to brands rather than working through other agencies. So what if a new part of the company expanded what we're already doing with our existing sponsors and brought it to other fantastic YouTubers?
And here we have the problem that anyone who's had a problem seems to have, since you never outlined this goal before. And you should have, because everyone is under the impression you were supposed to be creating a news network. Your fans have poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into DeFranco Elite due to this fact. Now, I see a lot of people saying he used Patreon funds to pay for this ad agency side project. This is kind of a little bit misleading if you only look at the BetterHelp partnership side of it, since it hasn't really cost him anything to do what he's doing with it. There aren't really any real costs involved. They're hitting them up, advising them who to sponsor, and taking a percentage of whoever is recommended. But it's not a bad theory to claim he's been doing some other shit with it, and therefore that would involve Patreon money, especially if he starts, hiring people and putting them on a salary. This is why Philip's response is even worse than simply not responding at all, because he's now exposed something else which is shady, and all this shady shit is beginning to stack up, and bottom line, Philip is a greedy bastard.
We negotiated Shane Dawson's deal with and for him and his team. And that's why our company's name shows up when you go to Shane's link. It allows us to be able to provide him with daily conversion numbers, how many people are signing up.
So, Keem is hopefully going to give us the answer to this next episode, but don't hold your breath. What Philip is claiming is either his company or himself hit Shane up directly, so different situation to Boogie and possibly others where it was more Philip advising BetterHelp on who to contact. We'll learn if Shane is actually getting these daily numbers, and if he is, who's providing them. I find it surprising that Shane doesn't know how many of his fans have signed up straight away. How is there no automated system in place? My guess Philip might be twisting the truth here a bit.
Also, in addition to the people that regularly watch this show, the people that are coming to this video just to shout that I'm a scammer and I should go kill myself and all the lovely things I've received over the week.
Yes, every YouTuber gets it, Chad gets it, Keen gets it, I get it. This might seem shocking to someone who's not a sizable YouTuber, but if you are, then you kind of know this comes with the territory. And don't be fooled for a second. I mean, come on, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not an idiot. He's not in any way affected by it. He knows not to take it seriously. He's pulling a tactic I've seen many times before. It's one that works very well. You can go to the video and see the evidence for yourself in the comment section. Lots of outrage for what people have sent him over the weekend. He's only been a YouTuber for over 12 years. I mean, come on, I think this variation of the victim card expired a very long fucking time ago.
For some reason, depending on who is talking about this story, certain parts are excluded or glossed over or exaggerated or misconstrued.
I bring you back to this clip I played at the beginning. As clips go, it's pretty ironic since Philip is guilty of doing it all himself. He excluded to mention that he was partnered with Betterhelp. He glossed over various criticisms and chose to focus on the ones he knew he could better defend. He exaggerated what Rogue Rocket does, and in some cases doesn't even do what he claims it does. He misconstrued what people were saying about him, and deceived others into believing he was making a good defense for himself by defending points nobody was ever even attacking him on. It's a shit response, but clever. He's a very clever businessman. Problem is, he's also very greedy, and eventually those people slip up and make mistakes. That's exactly what he's done here, and he deserves any and all criticism coming his way. He will survive this. He's built up too much power over the years. Never underestimate the effectiveness of pandering. It really is a YouTuber's greatest weapon. Anyways, that's it from me. Probably see you in about 18 to 24 hours' time for another episode of the Baited Podcast.